Wow. This is Brother Peter. I'm multitasking. This is something I do every day, all the time. I'm listening just like a secretary would be if she has her radio on and she's typing and she's doing things and the radio doesn't bother her. It's part of her listening apparatus and she's actually multitasking. Well, I'm listening to this. I'm listening to Christian music from the 70s. That's my forte. That's my cup of tea. That's what I like. I have thousands of tapes from the 70s. I have dozens and dozens of records from the 70s, all Christian. And I listen to them all the time, and that's my speed. They mean what they say. This book I'm reading right here was written back in the 20s, and the author deemed not to even put his name in it. He has no name at all in anywhere. And this is just like my father talking. My father was born in 1912, and in 1912, through the years, his language has come up pretty much to date. But when I was young, I remember he talked with those therewiths and wherefores and things that you didn't quite catch. But I read that all the time. I'm going to read this poem. This poem, it said, I stood by the open sea, and the ships went sailing by. The wind blew softly o'er the lea, and the sun had cloudless sky. Some ships sailed eastward, some sailed west, some north, and some southward. The trend, how can ships sail this way and that? But one way blows the wind. And the old sea captain made reply, his locks with salt spray wet. 'Tis not the wind decides the course, 'tis the way the sails are set. So I stand beside the sea of life, the ship goes sailing by, the wind blow fair from heaven's land, no clouds bedam the sky. But one sails eastward, one sails west, one north and one southward goes. How can ships sail this way? And what with self-same wind they blow? A voice made answer to my soul, 'tis not how blows the gale, it's each voyage decides the goal by the way he sets his sail. And that was a selected reading for you and I. How are your sails set? How are my sails set? The way I sail, a lot of people say, how do you sail that way, Peter? Day and night. And I never have a structural time during the day in a sense of the word. As a matter of fact, at 3:30 this morning, I was on the YouTube for a couple hours. And then I went back to bed and I slept an hour, so I got back up. And I got to reading, I got to cleaning and reading, and I picked this book up. And this book, How to Live a Holy Life, the model life. And doing anything, it's always well to have a model on which to fashion our work. In fact, nothing is done without a pattern, either real or emergency. And the little boy making a toy has in his hand a model by which he is framing his work. Likewise, the sculptor has in his mind a model, and as the marble wastes, the image grows under the likeness of the vision in his soul. To live this one life, of course it should be lived. We must have a perfect model after which we pattern. Thank God his perfect model of life can be found. Of all the vast numbers of lives that have been lived since Adam down to the present day, there has been only one that we can take as a model. This one is the life of Jesus. He says, I am the life. To live this life of ours, we'll live it to the highest degree of perfection We must fashion it according to the glorious life of Christ. The life of Jesus is the model life for every other human life. He invites us, yea, commands us to follow him, to step in his steps, to walk as he walked. Carrying on, how to live. There have been many good men in the world, but none of them offered us a true pattern of life. There was a man who said, "Be ye followers of me." But he immediately added, "Even as I also am of Christ." Man may so live as to reveal to us the life of Christ. We can then follow not them, but the Christ life that's manifested through them. Let me here say a word on the subject, on which we may have more to say hereafter. The grandest, noblest work man can ever done is by his life to reveal the life of Christ to another, thereby helping the person to be fashioned more after the image of Jesus. A little flower grew in a place so shaded that no ray from the sun could fall directly upon it. A window was so situated that at the curtain time, in the afternoon, it reflected the sun's rays and threw them upon the flower, thus giving it color and beauty and adding to it the bloom. Some people are living in the dense shade. No light from Christ has ever shined upon them. If you so live as to reflect the life of Christ and turn it unto them, then this stamp upon them a holier life. You have not lived in vain. To set the life of Christ in its purity and bounty before some, one influences him, though only a little. To live better and love Jesus more is a work the worth of which can never be computed. He who helps another to be a better way of living does more than he who gains great worldly honor and riches. Blessed indeed is that life which causes some other life to be more like Christ. Or may this thought seize upon our hearts and fill us with a great passion to live the life of God. We are told by the voice of Scripture to be followers of God as dear children. When children are dear to the heart of the parents, He loves to have them obey Him. God's children are dear to Him, and He would have them follow Him. To follow God is to imitate Him or be like Him. This is the true way of life. A text of Scripture as rendered by the Revised Version is very appropriate here. Like as that which has called you is holy, he who yourself also are holy in all manner of living. 1 Peter 1:15. Only those who live godly in their entire manner of life are spending the days of their pilgrimage as they should. Jesus has walked the true way of life. We are told to walk in His steps. If we will step each day just where Jesus stepped, then on looking back and take a single misstep, our footprint will show our departure from the true way of life. How deep and awful are the words of Scripture wherein we are commanded to walk even as Jesus walked. Jesus said, I am the way, and there is no other right and perfect way. If we will walk as Jesus walked, then we shall walk in the true path of life. This only is the pathway that leads up the golden gate of glory and the sweet feel of heaven. That bright world of bliss encourages us on. If we will follow Jesus and live as he lived, God's approval will be upon us, and his outstretched hand will help us along life's way. And finally, over the tumult river of death to the sunlit shore of eternal rest. Many times we may become weary and think of toils of the way almost too heavy. But when we remember that is the way Jesus trod, then the heavens open to our view, and we look forward to the missions prepared for us, and the toils of the way grew lighter. See the aged pilgrim journeying down the western slope of life. The sun is nearing the setting. Long and toilsome has it been his pilgrimage, but he has walked in the path his Savior trod. For many years his life has been hid with Christ in God. In him he has lived and moved and had his being. Now he is making his last step on the shore of time. He passes out of our sight through the gates into the land where toils are ended and the sun never sets. But his life was the life of Jesus. He was holy as God is holy. He walked as Jesus walked. This is how to live. This is the true way of life, and the only way to life eternal. He who does not live with Christ on earth cannot live with him in heaven. He who does not live as Christ lived does not live as he should. The life of Christ was the perfect life. Ours is perfect to the degree that we imitate him. Take my life, O Christ, divine, make it holy, just like thine. Every set and thought and word be outward flow from my God. Guide my feet and keep my heart. Let me not from thee depart. Let me breathe thy warning love, that my soul may be drawn above. Draw me, Jesus, closer draw. Thy strong arm around me throw. Draw me to try thy pierced side. In thy bosom let me hide. Teach me all thy will and word, that may life be filled with God. Teach me, Lamb of Calvary, how to live this life for thee. Wow, what a small, but what a precious piece, written some 70, 80 years ago, and for you and I, and we have it here to read, that a man wrote for us and left it for us. And he was an author that did not sign his book. This book has no name anywhere in it whatsoever of who the author was. He didn't want it disclosed. He wanted it to be God's book, and it is. We'll see you next time, right? Bye-bye. All right. My shaky fingers won't let me stop on the little bitty square.